Hello, welcome. Welcome to the first episode of a new series I'm launching called Spirit Talk. In Spirit Talk, I am going to be interviewing different people who have been a real inspiration for me in my life, different healers, therapists, people into different medical physical research, health coaches, medical intuitives, all sorts of different people who are, I would say, experts in their field of either, well, in Lorraine's case, in shamanism, or in different areas linked to spirituality, health, and well-being. So, for this very first episode of Spirit Talk, I'm greatly honored and privileged to be able to interview someone who has been an amazing inspiration for me in my own life. I can honestly say that without the person who I'm interviewing today, that I'm not sure I would even be in my physical, not only here interviewing her, but actually in this body still, in this life. She was such a huge help for me back in 2012, 2013, 2014, when I was just going through a major dark night of the soul healing crisis. And I'm getting a little emotional, but I am super honored for Lorraine, who is an amazingly, extraordinarily gifted shamanic healer, homeopath, and also does something called Bowen work. And I'm just super grateful to be able to have her on the show so that some of you can meet her. And yeah, so without further ado, it's my great honor to welcome Lorraine. Lorraine, welcome.
Thank you, Adam. It's always nice to talk to you. It's always nice to see you. It's especially nice to see you doing so well in your life. And that gives me a great deal of joy. So thank you.
Yeah, it wasn't always so easy. I know when I first came to Lorraine, I had a lot of issues, a lot of problems in my life. I was going through a very deep healing crisis and was very much having a dark night of the soul. I was having a lot of health issues that were extremely debilitating in my life. And really the only person who seemed to have a certain sense of confidence, um, including myself, the only one who really had any confidence I was going to pull through it was Lorraine. And you know, I had been seeing other people, other healers, and been to different events. I actually met Lorraine at Reiki Share, if I remember correctly. But it was really only Lorraine was the one who was really like, you know what, you're going to be okay, and I kind of see what's going on with you. And you know, after spending many hours and sessions and thousands of dollars going to Western doctors and this sort of therapy and this sort of detox program, Lorraine was the one who really kind of was like, when I kind of considered my first session with Lorraine as like the launching point of my health and wellness journey. You know, actually my post-ayahuasca, I should say my post-ayahuasca health and wellness journey. So that was when it really started to shift. So Lorraine is a shaman, and I'd like Lorraine just to talk a little bit, if you could, about like what shamanism is, how you got into shamanism. So yeah, if you wanted to talk about shamanism, that would be amazing, and your journey into what you do and how you came upon it.
Well, 12 years ago, I didn't even know what shamanism was. And so I had a shamanic healing that changed my life. And it put all the pieces, almost like everything started fitting together in my life. And I realized that this was my path. I was like a duck to water. And it was because the world made sense to me. From the very beginning, I was very spiritual and very interested in nature. And so it was a marriage of who I was and the integration with nature that really brought both of my worlds together. And so I see shamanism as a marriage of that. is a marriage of spirituality, seeing your spirit and living from a soul place that is really integrated into this world and living in harmony with nature at the same time. And so basically, my idea of what shamanism is really helping people integrate that and living a harmony with nature and living within this realm and this world, and showing people how to become fully present and alive in this world at this time. And so most of what I do is I help people navigate that through various shamanic practices. So through extractions, taking energy out of the body that doesn't belong, through soul retrievals, bringing back parts of ourselves that get lost through trauma or through events that are too much for our hearts, and through ancestral healing, from bringing healing through the ancestral line through us, and not only healing ourselves but healing the generations that come after us and healing the generations that come before us. And then shamanism also is also psychopomp, helping souls cross over from this world to the next. And then really helping people in this world come into their hearts, coming into their bodies, coming fully present in ceremony, in ritual, in community. So it's a big job. But it's a lot of fun.
So you talked about a lot of different potential strands we could follow there. So I want to start with soul retrieval, because
Sure.
I know that would be something that if you had told me 12 years ago that you could like lose part of your soul, like leaving behind a phone or a wallet someplace, I think I would have said that's kind of crazy. I don't really know if I believe that. So can you talk about what soul retrieval is and how it might manifest in someone's life if they have like a soul piece or something that needs retrieving? What might be like a symptom of that in their life, and just a bit about also the whole process of bringing back a soul piece, and can they just come back by themselves, or is it something that you need to have a shaman go fish for you?
Well, a lot of questions to come back
A lot
at.
of questions, yeah.
So first of all, soul retrievals, soul parts can leave, okay, especially if you have a very sensitive person or the trauma is too great. And so a portion of us splits off so that we can sometimes deal with the trauma. And so what happens, especially in cases of something like a car accident, something that, has a beginning, a middle, and an end, that those pieces might get lost and they might not come back. So we might go into a shock response, and a piece of us gets so scared that we'll leave. And even though, we survive the accident, we come back and, we're healthy, a part of us is still feeling, okay, there's something not quite right in my life. Either maybe really scared to get behind the wheel, or maybe a little spacey, feeling like you're incomplete. There's a lot of different signs of someone needing a soul retrieval, but most of it really has to do with the feeling that there's something not quite right, right? So if you're feeling that there's something not quite right, that there's something missing, that's a sign of a soul retrieval needing to happen. And it basically happens for people that it's too much. It's just too much. The trauma is too much. And so in order to survive, we're survivalists, and we're really meant to be here. Our bodies are meant to be here. And sometimes when trauma gets to be too much, the way to survive it is just for that part of us to escape, right? To leave. And depending on who we are, depending on our skills, absolutely we can bring those soul pieces back. A lot of times you can bring those soul pieces back by just interacting with that aspect of yourself that is outside yourself. So, for example, that tender piece that, say you have a really bad breakup, and you know your heart is hurt, and there's that piece that is outside yourself, still in that relationship. You can call that piece back by calling it back with love, by saying, come back to me, I love you, I need you. And you can call back aspects of yourself. And so when a shaman is needed is when you can't call back those aspects, or if the soul splits multiple times, and that happens in a lot of cases where people have more than one soul piece missing. And so they need the help to really bringing up the pieces together. So think of it as a puzzle, and we're all puzzles. Think of it as a complete puzzle and missing key pieces. And if you're missing key pieces, sometimes it's really hard to move forward in your life because you're missing part of the picture. And so the more complete the more complete the picture, the more able to really have clear vision in your life, right? To be able to manifest and go where it is you need to go. And when you're missing those pieces, part of you is still in that trauma.
Right.
And so thus the soul retrieval is to bring completion, and bring wholeness back.
And I know that when you were working with me extensively, I know a lot of the soul pieces that you were retrieving for me weren't even from this lifetime necessarily. They were from other realms or other lifetimes. So if you have a soul piece missing from, like, say a past life or another realm, that would seem like it's something where you might not even realize it's missing until it actually comes back. I know, like, a couple of those times I couldn't believe, like, wow, like, whoa, I didn't even realize I wasn't here. When you took a piece from, so I think it was maybe a different dimension or a past life, and you blew it into my heart, and it just, like, wow, I'm more present, I'm more fully in my body. And it was palpable, that the immediate, like, shift like this. So so can you talk a bit about, like, maybe past lives and stuff, like how, if we go after we die, and this is getting into a whole lot of different things we could talk about, but after you die, if you go into an afterlife realm, wouldn't your soul kind of, like, take that piece back at some point? And then how would you have, like, say, past life soul pieces missing?
Well, there's parts of us that are eternal, parts of us that are eternal, and parts of us through lives, right? We take these experiences when we finish this lifetime here, our souls go on to experience other lives, and sometimes simultaneous, that we're experiencing things simultaneous. Time is relative. So we see time, as a 24-hour clock, right? But time, the shamans see time this way, as a spiral. And we could be anywhere on that spiral. And so experiences, even if we just take it in this lifetime, experiences, we could have one experience, our, say a really difficult time with a father, then, maybe a difficult time with a marriage, difficult time, with a male coworker, right? These things spiral up. Well, these are life lessons. And so these life lessons can go from, from lifetime to lifetime. And so we're here to learn. And if aspects of ourselves aren't complete within ourselves, it's really hard to take that forward, right? It's really hard to learn a lesson when we're missing aspects of ourselves to
Right.
complete that lesson,
Right.
right?
Right. So I know from another, this is I think from theta healing, they talk about there's like 4 levels of kind of conditioning or that we can heal. So the first level is like what they call core level stuff from this lifetime. Then the next level would be I think like inherited from like our ancestors, and then beyond that there's still 2 more levels of what they call history level, which I guess would be like the collective.
Mm-hmm.
And then beyond that there's what we call the soul level. So would you say, based on your experience, how much of our conditioning is actually coming from not even, I know psychologists talk a lot about like, what happened to you when you're 1 year old or 3 years old, but how much of our conditioning is actually coming not just from that, but from actually from those other 3 levels, from our ancestors, or from the collective of humanity, or from the soul? I would say it's the vast majority. Would you agree with that, or would you have a different
Well,
assessment? Or
it's a big question. That's a really big question. And you know, within this lifetime, we have our purpose and we have what we're learning. But what you're really asking, what I think you're really asking, is the bigger picture. What does the bigger picture look like, right? For all of us, and as humanity, right? As a collective, yeah, we're learning different lessons all at once and all together. And so it's everything's interwoven, just like nature, everything is interwoven. The, the plants don't exist separate from the animals, right? Neither do, and then something dies and then the mushrooms take and decompose it, right? And we're this ecosystem, and humanity is also an ecosystem. So I think we're really learning all those aspects all at once, right?
okay. So when you're going into these shamanic sessions with people, you're kind of journeying to different realms, right? To help, depending on where to extract
Yeah,
something, like you
yeah.
said, so extraction of what doesn't belong, or soul retrieval. So how does someone like you, how did you learn to tap into these different realms? If someone was skeptical and said, oh, like, I don't know if I believe in any of this, what would you say to a person like that? How do you train? Or was it a natural gift that you always had some ability, but were you able to, I'm sure you were able to develop it as well. So what was, can you talk a little bit about that and how you experienced that?
Okay. Well, a lot of it is just trust, really. I have found that when I have a person in front of me that is asking for healing, I just go wherever I need to go. I don't know where I'm going to go. So I ask spirit to take me, and I climb aboard this beautiful, beautiful wolf that I climb aboard, and I just go places. And I don't know where that'll be. So the realms and the different places I go are all dependent on the person in front of me. So it's really it's a trust, and that's part of working with someone is I trust you, you trust me, and we enter in this synergy between us, and then magic can happen, right? all sorts of wonderful, magical things happen during a shamanic session, and wholeness happens, and you know, miracles happen. And yes, the realms, all sorts of interesting things happen, and the stories are endless. I have endless stories of, you know, wonderful places to go and hellish places to go, right? And everything in between. And it's really quite, you know, it's quite a fantasy. Shamanism is a little bit of just letting things just really be free, and just going wherever you need to go and not controlling it. And so that was just something that is okay for me to do, because I
So
have trust.
you had this ability from a young age to do this, or was it something that was developed through mentorship with a teacher or something like this, or a certain practice, or a bit of both of those?
Well, you know, the interesting thing is that in the beginning, I went to the Four Winds. So I call it it's a great place to go for training wheels, and just to begin learning. And they give you a map, just a very basic map. And through journeying, and through asking guides, and through really every client in front of me teaches me something. And you taught me a whole lot about a whole bunch of different realms that I didn't know about, right? You know,
Yeah.
and I was going places, wow, I've never been here before. Wow, look at that. And just being okay, trusting that it was all going to be okay, and just really letting go, and being there for that person in front of me. So
And so when you're journeying, do you experience it mostly through visions that you're seeing it, like live visions, or you feel like you're actually fully immersed in these different realms when you're going to these?
um, that's a good question. You are. It is my belief system. The shamanic practitioner needs to have one foot in this reality always, and then the other half is able to journey. So I'm in two realities at the same time. So I'm always, you know, maybe holding the hand of the person needing the soul retrieval, being there, you know, touching them, being in contact, knowing that I'm there. But then half of me is really seeing, feeling, sometimes smelling. You know, if I'm in a place, I've smelled the, you know, the ocean, the trees. So and seeing. So it's really about being in two places at once. Yeah.
Cool. So I think there's probably, I'm guessing of the people who watch this, there's probably three camps of people. People who are like totally on board and fascinated by what you're saying. People who are like kind of on board, but maybe a little skeptical. And then probably a third group, which is like, what are you talking about? But to that third group, all I can say is from my own experience, it was absolutely, I really was having major health problems, and it was only you know, I had just been to the emergency room. I could barely get out of bed. And it was really when I started to work with Lorraine that I just felt first that this knowingness that I was actually going to get better and survive, and that was lacking for a while until I started maybe I think 2 or 3 sessions with Lorraine, and that like kind of cleared up. I'm like, yes, and a lot of it was, I think, her confidence, but also the shifts I was feeling. I know just another example is I had some sort of like energy hole in my stomach, and my digestion was just an absolute disaster at this point. And Lorraine, in one session, closed up this like energy vacuum, and all of a sudden, like my digestion just was noticeably way better way better. You know, and that was, and it was free, and my stomach felt different too. It was like a palpable difference in how my stomach felt. So for those who are skeptical, I would just say to try to keep an open mind, because I think, you know, what Lorraine is doing is incredibly both gifted, but also incredibly ancient work. You know, because shamanism goes back as in pretty much all parts of the world. I mean, they might not call it shamanism, but I think there's some roots in all the ancient cultures of the kind of work Lorraine's doing. It's the exact form and the exact practices, and some of the mediums might be a bit different, but I think there's a lot more commonalities than differences. So next thing I want to talk about with Lorraine is so what would you recommend? I know you had said, like, why would someone want to come and work with you? What would be like, if anything, is there any sort of thing, like you said, this person needs a shaman, or some sort of issue, or just what would you say? What's your kind of the people who come to you? Why do they come to you, and why should they go see a shaman instead of like someone else?
Well, a lot of people, I've been really getting a lot of young people recently. And maybe it's because of the times, but a lot of young people come because they're not sure who they are. And they want to know their soul's purpose. And so that's part of what we work on, is really finding out who they are and what they're meant to do here. And then a lot of people, young or old, come because they have unresolved issues in their lives, places in their lives that they keep going back to, right? Like I mentioned, maybe a father that was not healthy for them when they were little, and then they go ahead and get into a relationship, you know, after relationship with men that are unhealthy. So it's that spiraling that I was talking about, because time will come back, and the soul is always looking to heal itself, to come into that completeness that it knows exists. And so it will come back over and over to heal those wounds. And so people will come to heal those past wounds so that they can come into wholeness and not repeat past patterns that are unhealthy, and then step into a new way of being in the world that nourishes who they really are and their purpose.
Right.
Yeah.
Great. So soul purpose, if you feel like something's missing, or you feel some sort of like trauma within your system, but I think the nice thing about shamanism, from my experiencing sessions with Lorraine, is it's always looking at the holistic problem. It's not never looking at just the superficial. So, you know, if a doctor, you know, Western medicine has some good stuff in it, but if a doctor says, "Oh, you have a stomach thing," they'll give you a pill to fix the stomach, and Lorraine will go to a different realm where you know, maybe have some past life soul piece missing related to being in your power, right? Like being in your gut, and she'll go and retrieve it, and then that's really what's actually needed to really bring your center of gravity down and heal the stomach issues. So if I'm not saying anything correctly, please correct me, Lorraine. But yeah, so this is a thing which I've experienced from Lorraine, is that it's really getting, when you do a healing session like with Lorraine, or I guess any shaman that's as qualified as Lorraine. I want to talk about that in a second, about the different types of shamans and plant, because I think a lot of people think of plant medicine and think that is shamanism. So I want to talk a little bit about that. But yeah, I think it's really shamanism, in the sense of what Lorraine is doing, is really, really powerful, because it's getting really deep into the core issues of what is keeping a person from their potential. So, leading into what I just said, So many people, I think, when they think of shamans, they would think of somebody like maybe doing plant medicine ceremonies in the Amazon jungle. But you aren't somebody who's really using plant medicine other than homeopathy, which maybe if you want, we can talk about in a little bit. But you're not really using any plant medicine at all in your sessions. So can you talk about sort of maybe the philosophy of your type of shamanism, which isn't using plant medicine? And also, I think I'd like you to talk a little bit about like ayahuasca and things like this, because this is something that I've had many conversations about with many people, and it's not I think maybe your view on ayahuasca and some of these plant medicines, they might not be necessarily the most popular in some of the circles I've been in where people like to just take ayahuasca like on a very nonchalant kind of way. But I'd like you to talk a bit about, first of all, your type of shamanism versus like plant medicine shamanism, and then also about your perspective on these plant medicines like ayahuasca or peyote or any of these other ones.
Well, I am trained in Peruvian shamanism, but it's in the high Andes. So these are shamanism through the Q'ero people, and they didn't have access. They weren't in the jungles, so they weren't using ayahuasca. They were surviving. And so the difference is they had to come into harmony with their environment very quickly and in harmony with each other. And they do use coca leaves because they're up at high altitudes, and that's more part tradition to share with others, but not so much like ayahuasca, just something to take and chew and commune with one another. But the shamanism, the high Andes shamanism is really to teach us that we're children of the sun and very open-hearted people. And so that's what I learned. That's what I was drawn to. Now, that being said, I think every medicine has its place. So many people in this world are not heart-centered, right? Ayahuasca is wonderful because it literally will take your field and it will open it up all the way, like unzipping and opening it up and saying, here, heart, here's what's in here. And it shows you what is in your heart that you didn't know was in there. Is it needed? Absolutely. Do I think it's a wonderful medicine for people that really want to discover what is in their heart and do something about it? 100% on board, right? But I am against people that just take things just to try it and have it as a weekend, kind of, oh, let's do this. Let's have fun with this. It's medicine, and it's really important to know that it's medicine. And with each one, San Pedro cactus is one that, if you take it, it shows you the beauty of the world. It shows you how beautiful the world is. Okay.
Yeah.
That was wonderful if, you can really take it and appreciate that. So am I against any of that? No, I think plant medicine is very useful. It's very helpful. What I teach is more teaching people how to come down into themselves, into the everyday. So say they want to do ayahuasca, great. Then they can come to me and I can help them incorporate that. I can also, with different karpais, those are initiations, physically open up the heart, physically balance the heart. Okay, that's right. How I was taught, is that I can go in there and energetically move things around, open things up, balance things out. And shamanically, it's not, for me, it's not needed, right? And then showing people, hey, why don't you come down into ceremony? You can do this for yourself, right? You can help yourself and come down into your heart, come down into your body and honor yourself and look at life from this perspective. And so that's what I really enjoy, is teaching people skills and empowering people on how to use those skills. Not just healing people, but empowering them, and that they can take those skills. And so they have an experience, a beautiful experience, whether it's a healing or whether it's a weekend ceremony. And part of what I'm really stepping into now is teaching people how to take those experiences, dial them down into something really practical that they can use in their lives, and take it forward that they can use to heal others, heal their families, right? To, heal their communities, get along with a neighbor they couldn't get along with before. So
Great. Yeah. So I think what you're talking about was really the integration piece, right? The integration of like maybe
correct.
getting insights from ayahuasca or from San Pedro, um, but not that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be integrated with that in your daily life right away, right? And that's where I think the work you're doing is really valuable. Now, when I was talking about it, I thought that you might have views that might some people might not like about it. So I was talking more of a guess about who to drink it with, or the
Mhm.
circumstances to drink it with, because I know you had always said to me that the shaman who I was drinking with didn't properly, you didn't feel he properly held the space. So and I know there's a lot of people who drink take these things with very little supervision, or with people who aren't necessarily very experienced. I think very experienced, and I think uh, holding space for ayahuasca is probably one of the toughest jobs on the planet. From my right, I don't know if you would agree with that, but it's a PhD level space holding job for sure. So yeah, so if I was, maybe I thought I would just have you give insights on that, because I think it's something
Well,
that would be
what you're asking, I think, is how do you hold space, really? And it comes from the person taking the substance really has to understand the sacredness of what they're doing. And really, in ceremony, no matter what type of ceremony, it's really important that each participant really understands what it is to be in sacred ceremony. And to me, that's really talking from the soul, allowing the soul to speak. And when you do that, you bring the sacredness into ceremony. And so that sacredness also needs to be no matter what aspect you are. So if you are an ayahuasquero holding space, then you also have to hold space in a sacred manner. Hold space in the singing of the Icaros. Hold that container so that all the participants also can feel the sacredness, so that their hearts can open up, so that they can do that work. And whether we're talking really any healing, this is not just in shamanism, any healing, any relationship, whether when you're working with a healer, you must have the trust between one another, and you must have the sacredness. And when you do, healing's going to happen, right? Because you have the container. And what you're referring to were situations, I know, in your own life, because that's what we were working on, where the container was not held. And if the container is not held properly, it's dangerous, right? It's dangerous for everybody.
right, right. So okay, so moving on to somewhat related, I mean, all of this is related to spirituality and health and wellness. Can you talk a little bit about homeopathy? So another type of energetic medicine, much more subtle than something like ayahuasca. But what is homeopathy, and what type of things do you use that for?
So homeopathy is, you can say, vibrational medicine. It's energy medicine. And everything living has energy. So besides you and I, there's a plant behind me that has energy. And the shamans would even say that, you know, the computer that we're talking on has energy. Same with the bookcase in back of me. Everything is alive and has energy. And so with that, everything has a certain energy signature, and you can say that's like a personality, right? And so that personality or that energy signature will help someone who needs that signature. So to break it down a little easier to understand is if you look at a radio, right? And your normal station, when you can hear really clearly, is 102. But you're not feeling right, something's off, and so you're really at maybe 101.5, right? You can still hear the station, you're not quite off, but it's really fuzzy. And so what homeopathy does is when you find a remedy that is at 105.5, where you're resonating with, it will actually, if it's at that same kind of vibration, it will actually move you back to the proper place in your dial, which is 102. And so it works by matching whatever state you're in, okay? And so, you know, and so it'll work on chronic things that, you know, you've accumulated over time to acute problems. And it's really using all of nature and all that exists. So it's very energetic, and it's very, you know, to me, it's very shamanistic, right?
Right, right, yeah, yeah.
Because it's all of life. It's bringing all of life together, right?
Yeah, and it's about sort of attuning your energy field to harmony, right? Which is ultimately, I guess, what shamanism is trying to do at a deeper
Mm-hmm.
level.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, absolutely.
So, I think before we're getting toward the end of this interview, I think, but before we
Almost out of battery, so it's good.
yeah, before, let me know if you're at like 3 minutes so that I know to wrap it up. I think one thing we haven't talked about yet is like life purpose or soul purpose, and so this is something I'm very interested in as a soul plan teacher, and I think it's one of the things that is super important for people to connect to, whether they know it consciously or not, that this is their sole purpose, but definitely a deeper feeling or calling in their life of what they want to do. So can you talk about soul purpose from a shamanic perspective, and what your insights or anything you want to share about that?
I'm going to share something really practical because I have a lot of early 20-year-olds coming to me. And that's about the age of my kids right now. So all their friends are popping in. And what I tell them is just to try and be present. Because at 20, you don't need to figure out what you're doing, right? You don't need to figure out your whole life at 20. But to really be present in the everyday, be present in who you are, and then start exploring different avenues that give you joy. What sort of things do you enjoy? And from then, purpose starts to arise. It just starts bubbling up. The shaman hold our purpose in a really beautiful place. It's really poetic. They see our purpose is in an Inca seed. So they say that when creation happens, so when we're created, when our soul decides, okay, we want a body is forming so our soul can come in, the first thing that comes in is an Inca seed. And that Inca seed contains our divinity, our connection to the divine, right, through us, and our gifts. And our gifts are what we bring out to the world. And so what I really work with people is to bring out those gifts, right? And how do you nurture them? And in young people, it's really discovering them, right? And once you nurture them, once you plant them and you water them and you take care of them, then you're going to grow beautiful trees, beautiful flowers, beautiful beautiful aspects of yourself that are nourished by being on this earth, right?
Yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
that's really good advice. Yeah, I think yeah, I think when I've seen from giving a lot of soul cleansings to the people who are most on their path or just have probably done exactly what you just said, who are like, focusing on healing anything that's preventing them from being like present, and being in their hearts and their lives. And then yeah, I think a lot of times when if you really have a desire to help the world or a desire to improve or desire to heal yourself or to live a more fulfilling, wholesome life, then the universe or God or spirit will find a purpose for you. you know. That being said, I do think it can be helpful for sometimes people to get a deeper sense of maybe the big picture of that path. So do you do stuff like that for people when you're in your session sometimes, like help
Yeah,
them to understand?
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. It depends on where someone wants to go, you know. My job is just to help them and be their guide in wherever they want to go, navigating the realms, navigating this world, listening. And that's what I love my job. It's a lot of fun. And because the more people that really understand how to be joyous in this world and really learn how to live from a place of being embodied and being in the heart and really being empowered, well, that's what it's all about for me. And so that's what I enjoy doing. So,
Beautiful. Yeah. So just a couple more quick questions, and then after that, I'm gonna surprise you with something.
okay.
Sort of,
Well, I might have to
play.
turn on my computer. 'Cause I'm down to about 7%.
So
So,
I think we'll make it. I think we'll make it. So yeah, I think the next question I want to talk was just about psychic information in general, and channeling and all this sort of thing. I know when I was, maybe 7, 8 years ago, you would always tell me, Adam, don't go to psychics, which I always thought was really funny because you are maybe the most psychic person I know. Um, uh, but yeah, I have seen that a lot of psychic information just seems from
so
other psychics I've received
I'm going to cut to
hasn't
the,
been very accurate.
yeah,
But
I'm
with
going to,
you, most of it has been. So I'd like to ask in general about why you gave that advice, and also your view on psychic information as a whole, and why you think some psychics aren't particularly accurate, and you seem to be much more so from my experience. A lot of the things you've said has been true or come to
so
be true.
to I'm not against psychics. I like psychics, but what happens is if you are coming from an ungrounded place and giving advice to someone based upon what you see and it's ungrounded, that's where I have a problem. And I've seen some very good psychics that are really grounded, fantastic psychics. But then I've also talked to a lot of psychics that are not grounded And that's where information can be helpful or it cannot be helpful. So really, it depends on the person. And I always say, find someone who's really grounded, really here, really embodied in who they are. They're going to give you much better guidance than someone who's not, no matter who they are, psychic or not. Yeah.
Okay. So can you give when you say grounded, just for the listeners or the watchers, can you just give a definition of what you would consider grounded?
Grounded means fully in your body. So right now I'm sitting and I can feel my sits bones. I can feel myself in the body. I can breathe and I can feel the breath in my body. So it's really being able to feel yourself fully in your body, with your mind being focused on whatever is at hand, and also being able to use all your senses and really feel, see, touch, taste. Those are all things that help you be present, be grounded. And it really, grounded just, to me, just means fully here.
Beautiful. So, and one other question I had, or I guess this isn't, I don't know if it's maybe find a question here, but I remember I wanted to tell one of the most, I think, inspiring stories I've ever heard, that you told me, I think around maybe 2013 or so. And it was a story about that shaman who was working with a woman who had cancer. And you told me that the woman had cancer and the shaman was working with her, and she was seeing like, okay, what's going to happen? And every single time she saw the woman dying from cancer, and she went through like 99 different scenarios or something like this. And every time, like, no matter what she did, the woman was dying from cancer. Then she found one single path where if the woman followed a very kind of exact route, she would manage to overcome the cancer and heal, which is also, I think, one thing that I think is very empowering about what you can do. Because I think one thing that you've always taught me is that it's not just the job of a shaman or a psychic or someone like this to prescribe the future, but to show the most empowering potential for the future and to try to guide someone to that. And I think that I am very, very grateful that I started off learning from you, because, I think that there's many, I don't know if there's many teachers that really fully teach this in such a clear way as you do, that we can also, there's also an ability to take many or infinite possibilities, or many different possibilities, and navigate a certain direction. And that's what we can use, psychic abilities to help ourselves navigate toward that, rather than sort of taking this overly fatalistic view of, sorry, this is how it's going to be.
Yeah, absolutely. There's an infinite amount of possibilities in this world, right? Infinite. We make choices step by step that lead us a certain way, right? Put us on a certain path. But part of shaman's ability is to be able to help navigate for a client an outcome. Absolutely. And by working with them and changing the outcome. And because all things are possible, all things are possible.
I think you even told me once that you know a shaman who changed their eye color. Is that correct? Was that not true? No, okay. Maybe it was someone else who told me that.
Might have been someone. Yeah, I don't think it was
another shaman told me that. Yeah, but I thought that was a super empowering story. Just when you told about the woman who had cancer, that story you did tell me, right? That was definitely you. So, Yeah, all right. So I want to end. Do you have anything else you want to talk about before I end this interview with what I'm going to call a rapid fire? So I'm just going to ask you a bunch of questions, and I want you to just give
No,
answers in like
I'm good.
in a
I'm good.
few cents.
Yeah.
Okay,
I mean, I have about five, not much battery, so
five
we should go
percent.
to rapid fire.
Okay, so rapid fire, this is just going to be, I'm actually don't even have these written down. I'm just going to be asking these off the top of my head. I have a few that I have come to me already, but we'll see how long it goes. It might be, if I run out of questions, it might be about 30 seconds or it might be a couple minutes of questions. And they're just short answers. I just want you to say the first thing that comes to you, okay? So if you could describe the most important thing in life in no more than 3 words, what would it be?
Love and joy.
If you, what's the number one misunderstanding among people that come to you about life?
Misunderstanding others.
Misunderstanding others. And if you had one spirit animal that you most strongly connect to yourself, what would it be?
Tiger.
And if you had one spirit animal that you think humanity as a whole could most learn to benefit from right now, today in 2021, what would it be?
A bear.
A bear.
Yeah, and that
Okay.
just came to me, so I'm a bear.
A bear. And um, if you could see yourself 10 years from now, would your life, if there's anything you could change in your life from where it is 10 from now to 10 years from now, what would it be? You can say
You know,
nothing.
yeah, to be honest, I'm really happy where I am now, and I know in 10 years I will also be happy. So life
That's
is good. Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Where in the year 2100, humanity will most likely
Be more loving to one another, more open-hearted.
beautiful.
More community.
I had another I had another question and I don't know it somehow left the building. So I think we'll end the rapid fire with that. So we're moving towards love and unity in the year 2100. So that's what we're ending the pathways of this interview towards. So I'd like to just thank Lorraine for her time and her wisdom that she shared with us in this interview. I just would like to give a little bit of information about how you can contact Lorraine. So she has a website. It is called livelovelaughhealing.com. And she also is on Facebook. I'll tag her like in this video, Lorraine Herschbach. So am I saying that right? Lorraine Herschbach Stern on Facebook. So you can also, I'm sure, message her on Facebook. And she has a phone number, which is +1 831 206 9291. I got that? Yeah, that was just the top of my head from having called Lorraine many, many times in the past. You might be other than my family members. I think that might be the only phone number I actually have. I'm not even sure I know my phone number right now. And yeah, so you can check her out on all those. And she's also on Instagram at Live, Love, Laugh Healing as well. So these are different ways you can contact Lorraine. I would highly recommend, if you're watching this, if you watch this whole video, if you made it all the way to the end, obviously you probably liked at least some of what she was saying if you made it an hour into this interview. So I would highly recommend reaching out to Lorraine. Just I think you have an offer of a free intro talk.
Absolutely.
Is that correct? Is that
anyone can call and make an appointment to talk to me for 30 minutes just to talk, and I can answer questions and help in any way I can.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I would highly recommend if you are stuck in your life or you have really anything I mean, Lorraine's capable of many different roles and she's kind of a counselor and healer and therapist and homeopath and Bowen worker and all these different things in one. So, so yeah, if you would like to, or you're even potentially interested in a session with Lorraine, I'd highly recommend giving it a try. One session, it could change your life. And yeah, so thank you again for your time, Lorraine. And this is the end of the first Spirit Talk interview. There will be more coming up shortly with some other amazing people who have also inspired me. But Lorraine was in many ways the start of my path, and I think it's very fitting that she was the first interviewee
Mm-hmm.
in the series. So thank you, Lorraine.
Thank
Namaste.
you.
Thank you to all of
Mwah.
you, and
Hey.
blessings to everyone watching this. Until the next time, have a beautiful life.
Mhm.